the document you're making reference to ailing the first constitution, that's what still remains.
With IEC. IEC knows you with that constitution.
With the IEC, per the Electoral Act, because the Electoral Act governs how a political party is constituted, how you run that, and all other policies that govern that particular political party, right?
So you guys left. You did not want unity. You wanted your own fiefdoms. Now that you've got a bigger political party, now you want to claim unity. Fulo Chibambu is an example. So everyone will keep forming their own political parties and say, let us unite. But they keep forming a new political party claiming, let us unite. That is the problem.
And therein lies the problem. And here's why. The first ever document to go out, MK, prior to December 16, had my name and cell phone number on that. And that then meant that I also got correspondences, phone calls, WhatsApps, and people requesting the email to send documents, where 4 countries in Africa.
That's me feeling that he is not a politician. He's a man, activist, who feels he needs to do certain things in a certain way. What kind of MK will you have if you win it? How dangerous is what you are doing?
It is.
How dangerous is it?
Being born and growing up Kosovo, one would say, to a point where it takes you to Avalon. There's a city called Avalon.
Mashiane Politically Incorrect. We did about three podcasts with Jabulani Khumalo to fight for the heart and soul of controversies.
That's true.
Part. Now, for others, they may not understand why I stress this party at the end, because I dwell on a lot of MK issues with most of our comrades. So I want us to talk now. He went to court many times. The first time we met him, we said, but this case of yours doesn't seem to be difficult to dislodge, doesn't seem to be difficult to pursue, because it's all digital. You were removed digitally without consent from MK. And, well, this somewhat agrees with me, and there were legal impediments that stopped him from doing it. But as we speak, as you can see the document that is there in front of you, he's in court to fight exactly what he said he was going to fight for. Lebo, I want you to paint us a picture. Who are you? Where are you from? And then, because people are probably watching, or then please lead us.
Greetings to you, Meauti, and your viewers. Lebogang Moepeng is the name. Born and bred Kosovo. I grew up Kogas. Still reside Joburg. Have been part of MK long before it was announced and publicized. In the background, of course, doing a whole lot of activities, as one would imagine. I played a role when we announced of coordinating fundraising. Others would refer to that as the role of Treasurer General. We did a lot in relation to fundraising and mobilizing activities at the party. So that in essence has been the role the Elohorwan has been playing since the inception, that is December 16, 2024 officially, prior to the announcement.
So to interject,
Sure.
You are using big English, so you are saying you are one of the founding members of MK Party.
Yes.
Before it was announced,
Yes.
you were already a member, you were really doing activities even before we launched.
Exactly.
Thank you. I just wanted that to be clear.
No, that's that, yes.
Yeah. And this vehicle, this people's vehicle, was deliberately launched on the 16th of December, so it could be the people's vehicle.
Exactly.
And people are now saying kumkhonto ounding. Do you agree with that, or do you think you were politically casted out of a people's organization?
It's quite complex. It's quite complex in that politics is a very and highly contested terrain. And you understand, Jorge, when you contest national elections, there's a whole lot of interest beyond national players. You start to attract international geopolitical players who have an interest in how your election outcome takes place. So that would also refer to issue infiltration coming to play, which is why fundamentally we had to do quite a lot of these things underground. Prior to December 16 of 2023, Hari announced. So it remains Mkhonto wa Mzansi. Interestingly, so I'll also say it remains Mkhonto wa Africa. And here's why. The first ever document to go out, MK, prior to December 16, had my name and cell phone number on that. And that then meant that I also got correspondences, phone calls, WhatsApps, and people requesting me the email to send documents, where 4 countries in Africa also made contact within the month of December, I think 2 of them in January of 2024. Central to what they were communicating is, we can see what you're doing, Mkhonto Wesizwe. And based on the address, the speech said December 16, we think we can understand where you're trying to go. And we pledge our support, and we're saying, please consolidate. And once you are done, come and help us, because Africa needs you. And central also to what they said, Africa needs Mzansi to be liberated, to come and liberate Africa. So it remains Mkhonto Africa. I think people will say all that they want to say. Others could argue there's an element of truth. It's propaganda. Outcomes, the decisions that we see and in social media and sometimes in mainstream media do suggest that there's an element of nepotism that takes place in the organization. But some of these things will be proven in a court, because that is in essence what we're trying to fix. We're trying to fix all of this negativity around the organization Yabatu. It's not an individual's organization. And the minute we start to link it to an individual, then we've lost it. The organization Yabatu, and that's what we will be proving in August of 2025 for the Constitutional Court.
Thank you. You spoke about documents. I've spoken a lot about documents on this podcast regarding MK Party.
Sure.
And I want to hear your perspective. I'm repeating myself, and sorry for those who have not started with us.
I'm sure they'll be with you.
Yes. So, and I'm doing so I could just paint a picture for you. There's a first document that was required to register MK Party. That constitution was given to me by Jabulani Khumalo.
Yes.
And then there was a constitution that remained a draft that came from Huvo Bilabila in Limpopo.
I recall that.
And then this was kicked on the teeth when in September of 2024, Floyd announced a constitution that declares Msholozi as a supreme leader who rules by decree. So there are 3 documents. So this one, let's put it down as a draft because it didn't happen, but there are people who still want it.
How did this one? You're referring to the first one?
No, the second one, the Huvo one.
Yeah.
The Huvo one, yes.
Fine, I'm with you.
Because the Huvo one happened after the elections.
Yes.
This is the first time we saw Bo Brian Molefe in the physical form,
yes,
in the pictures.
Yes, interesting.
Yes.
Entirely.
And I'm the one who likes to hold organizations accountable for what they told us. And when Floyd Chibambu released that constitution, I made a podcast dwelling into step by step of things that are not. Yes. So I put it on my podcast and say, here it is. I want to understand. That first constitution speaks about elective conferences. It says the Constitution, I read it when I was sitting with Advocate Mkhwebane to say the first Constitution speaks about if you need to amend the Constitution, it must be done at conference. And it clearly stipulates what should people do to get to conference because it's an elective conference. None of those things have happened.
Sure.
But the Constitution has changed.
We hear they say that, yeah.
Yes. So I just want to understand, will that be part of the contest going to court? Because I honestly do not understand how it works or how you guys intend to make it work.
That's fine. I think it's a fair question. And I think your viewers and yourself will understand, Jorge. On certain aspects, I might not get into detail because this matter is yet to appear in court.
Yes.
And anything we say or do might have an impact on the proceedings in court. However, the document you're making reference to ailing the first constitution, that's what still remains.
With IEC. IEC knows you with that constitution.
With the IEC, per the Electoral Act, because the Electoral Act governs how a political party is constituted, how you run that, and all other policies that govern that particular political party, right? Now, IEC will not come and infringe on how you should run that particular organization. So they're saying to us, give us documents of how you will manage this political party, to which we've done. That was done on the process here registration. So you're making reference to a clause about elective conferences, if you want to make amendments. Exactly. That document is what the IEC still holds in possession as far as we are concerned, because that is a document that was officially submitted. And the necessary processes are IEC when they gazette and they eventually give us certificates that you are an officially recognized political party with this constitution attached to it. So yes, it's to us, that's the document. And when I say to us, I refer to those who took the risk before it was popular. And funny enough, we had these discussions. What we do now, call it underground, bears a lot of risk. There were times where there were assassination attempts. Because there were times where certain people within that small circle leaked information, we assume, no? Or somebody might have be seen in certain places where they shouldn't have been, and people put two and two together, and before you know it, there are attempts. These things happen. You take the risk, your public office, knowing it has these potential risks, But we discussed this. There will be people who come in the context of infiltration and so forth. Let's have a document that protects, and ultimately that's the constitution that was submitted. Go IEC.
Okay. MK Party was formed in different pockets. When I say different pockets is, I argued many times that MK Party was formed in Jozi, but I also understand that it was formed in KwaZulu-Natal. The KwaZulu-Natal people will be Jabulani Khumalo and Comrade Name, and of course Vukovachev will be there, and you guys know each other. When I sat with Vukovachev, spoke about these pockets who McDonald was the one who was coordinating, was speaking with other people from different things, because it was very difficult, as clandestine as it was, because it wasn't going to be quickly, because people would pick it up and shoot it before it even flies. But I understand that part. I just want to understand this part. The unity amongst the founding fathers of this thing. How united are you? In other things you would say friends of the court and friends of what. How united are these founding members of MK? You can start it anywhere, because I'm saying it at the backdrop of McDonald and Gorbachev now have a political party.
Yes.
Because they thought fighting for this thing, people think we are fighting against Jacob Zuma. I mean, this is what I'm speaking on their behalf. I'm not saying this is what they said. This is what I picked up when I spoke to them. So I just want to understand, are you united?
Clearly we are not. And I think beating about the bush cut effects won't help anyone.
Yes.
And funny enough, this infant in the political landscape Yamzansi has matured so quickly to give birth to 3 new political parties. I think the third being Comrade Mary Party. I heard she's made an announcement. So that speaks to the center not holding. You can talk about the center some other time when we have time. But let me go back to why possibly there isn't unity. And history Arona bears a lot of reference to that. History Arona, I think, beyond 94, right? Politics has given shape to who we've become. Nalona relates the way we relate to each other because of political policies that were put in place. Yeah? And all sorts of other things that come as a result of that. So I also mentioned, and this is also based on who South Africa is, not only in Africa, but I think let's also look at geopolitics. But let's also look at the geo-positioning of South Africa in the world. It puts us in a very strategic place, geography Aruna. Now, with that in mind, if you look at global trade and where we are, it becomes important who ultimately occupies that corner office called the Union Buildings. Right? So there'll be a lot of international players who have interest in relation to also regional players who have interest in who ascends ultimately to the Union Buildings. Previously people who always have an interest who ascends to the corner office call it really house ultimately, because that then means who ascends to the Union Buildings. But that brief gives context to how we approached putting together this organization. We had to assume the highest level of secrecy. That's one. 2, we had to assume a military sort of approach, guerrilla approach, whilst we go underground, not being of a military background, there were mistakes we made. I guess that's why, one's vehicle was picked up in certain locations where we shouldn't have been there. I'm talking about prior to December 16, 2023. But I'm trying to answer a question, however, why are we not united, possibly as people who played a crucial role? And why there might be a whole lot of claims in various media, be it podcasts or mainstream, as it were, people putting claim to ownership and having played vital roles. Maybe that's a story for another day. But various people were involved in this process at various stages. Quite a lot of people who've seen out in media are people who came quite late on. Most of which after organization was registered, before they even knew how the organization was actually registered. People were brought on board after IEC had actually issued, documentation. Because at that point, 1, we knew that the 2024 elections were around the corner. 2, we had to mobilize quite a whole lot of crucial people throughout the country. So that then meant, who are the potential like-minded comrades we can engage? Comrades who could be amicable to the idea of one uniting the Black House in the context of a block vote as well. Ne? And people who are witnesses, because we all are witnesses, but people who are willing to take action to the social decay, the economic collapse, and a whole lot of other problems we can talk about in the country. So different people are identified, also in the quickest time possible, also based on relationships, an element of trust as well. So if Mr. X is given a task, drive to the Northern Cape. And when you get to the Northern Cape, consolidate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parties and whisper to them, this is what is happening. We picked up such people coming up in social media and putting claim to, I founded this organization. Hey, we started Nomdom Dala years ago, but which is fine. That we'll let that slide. So when that happens and a whole lot of people now not knowing how all of this came to happen, and no one really standing up to say, actually, this is what happened, it's easy for people to start mushrooming everywhere and put claim to a whole lot of things. That's one. But 2, the lack of unity also talks to what I would sadly say is political interest. Because Harshaba Kancharona, political deployment means control of certain organs of state, and that then means you could influence certain procurement decisions. This is what happens. No? So I think contestation AO has also led to the lack of unity. Because I think a lot of us as comrades lost the focus before we even went to December 16. Because we then, and I recall a meeting we were sitting, I think it must have been in Kandla, Johannesburg. At my age, it's difficult to remember these things. But some elderly, old, wise man says, no one will have positions here. Because positions mean problems. But also positions could potentially mean infiltration from outside. Because if I hold a certain strategic position and I stay somewhere, I could easily be approached and infiltration comes through. So we can't single it out or point out what leads to disunity, but these are some of the things I could highlight amongst quite a whole lot more that could have been reasons why we were not. Issue where the organization was founded, organization Abatwe, and it remains organization of the people. And different people from different provinces throughout this country played a crucial role to get this organization to where it was in relation to being registered. We struggled to secure funds to register IEC in 2023 before people knew what was happening. And people we spoke to, some were not in KZN, some were not in Gauteng, but people who made contributions to get the organization to where it was. Now, to me, that says we can't single out certain provinces and say this is where this organization was founded. The coordination might have been in certain provinces, yes, but it remains the people's organization that, the grassroots come from the country.
Thank you. If you remember the Gorbachev interview, he stated that when they arrived in Kanda, there were certain elders of Zulu cultural group who, according to them, these people Babu Goli, their secretaries there. Here, there's MK of here, KwaZulu. And they approached him and said, because they wanted to understand, Horu secretary, which secretary are you? Which are you secretarially a Goli or you're very GLL? So, because of this idea of Itomile guy MK. But being there as it may, I think let's talk about the crux of the case without
compromising,
without dissecting it into the meat. So basically, Jabulani Khumalo needs to return as the president of the organization. This is my understanding.
Okay.
He wants to return to be the president of the organization using the previous or the initial constitution, meaning that he will not have a superpower that Jacob Zuma has if he wins. Because now we are talking issues of if he wins. Is that the contest that is at court? Because if he gets it, he will not be able to rule by decree. It would also mean that those die-hard people, those who say, Pelatina, we are learning from Sholus, will then mobilize themselves, go to conference. And when they go to conference, by the way, then they'll be able to remove him and put the leadership that they want. And this is the danger that people are not talking about it. Because once you take MK, are you going to take it with the Floyd Constitution? Because if he takes it with the Floyd Constitution, then there's no problem, because then he can lead forever. He can speak.
Comrade Floyd.
Yeah, the Floyd Constitution.
At the crux of it, it's to return the organization to the people.
What does that mean?
That means exactly what you described with an example, Yahorim. Does this mean that Jabulani will go back and is the organization or our members aware that there's potential decampaigning of Jabulani at conference, and then JZ could re-emerge in that context. But that is democracy.
Yes.
And it's in that constitution that was submitted to the IEC. And if that's what the people want, who've taken up the brave decision, I want to become a member and will participate in the various structures of the organization leading up towards conference, then that decision will be accepted. So too, like, the prior court judgments that came, they've been accepted. In the context, High Court, this is a matter, High Court rules, move to the next court, Bloemfontein, the Supreme, and ultimately now the matter is in the Constitutional Court. The attitude says, let's let the courts decide, and that will be accepted as well. And we hope the others will do the same. Or irrespective of which direction the courts take, when the evidence is put down and laid down on the table, and it should be tested, and I know the courts will test it, and a ruling is made, may we all, in a comradely spirit, accept that outcome.
Meaning even you?
I'm the one saying it. I will lead that forefront.
Okay. All right. So I want you to take time to explain to the audience.
Sure.
Where are we in the court process, and also maybe according to your understanding where it started, and maybe separate the issue of the CIPC when the directors were taken, so just people could understand where are we, because people might get lost. The first time you went to court, why was it dismissed? Was it because they stated it was urgent or not urgent? Please just explain that part for us.
That's fine. Courts can be complex, we saw which courts could have been so simplified, like going to buy bread, and why half loaf and it's this much, and full loaf it's this much.
Sure.
But various technicalities in various court appearances kicked out the matters or led to rulings which came historically. In some of them it was, it's not urgent because of the technicality where, you could sit at home and think, I need to be at work and it's urgent. To somebody else, it's not. It's an issue of technicalities. In some instances, it was evidence not being submitted. You're making a claim, you're disputing a signature, but where's the evidence? And the Supreme also says, but it's not urgent. So we pulled back, and it was important to pull back, quietly so, and ensure that we study all judgments and understand the technicalities and the intricacies of the law, of course with counsel guiding and leading us throughout the way, and ultimately come back and repackage now with evidence that addresses all aspects that have been raised from day one. And that's what the nation will be able to see go the Constitutional Court.
So in short, you are saying after all the court exercises, you don't want to mention them one by one, you took stock of what you were found wanting on, and then you compiled a solidified one, and then you are going back to court. At which court are you going to? Constitutional Court, High Court, Magistrate Court, Ombudsman? Where are you going?
So we are mobilizing people to come to Bloemfontein because we are going to the Constitutional Court.
Okay.
And this is the final bullet in the chain. And I think that is understood in all aspects. And that is what I'm saying, Khore, the ruling here has to be accepted either way, for the sake of the organization. But for me, the organization is neither here or there because it's a tool to which it needs to enable the betterment, the lives of South Africans. Right? And whilst we still have that at the back of our mind, that needs to always inform what we do and how we do it. How do we, within the responsibility we've been given by the voters, change their lives? So yes, we're going to Bloemfontein, the Constitutional Court.
you said we about 5 times. And I told you that when I started this, it was with Jabulani Khumalo.
Jabulani, yes.
And he has since came with other people, Triple AM. I know they are friends of this process. He also came with Dikhoshi.
Sure.
I just want to understand. We spoke with other people who are confident but afraid to be on the picture.
Yes.
Are you a member of MK Party?
I'm a founding member of MK Party.
Okay. Are you still a member of MK Party?
I am, yes.
Okay. Is Jabulani Khumalo still a member of MK Party? Because remember, he was fired from MK.
And then you're opening up a can of worms, that technicalities, Zahore. That firing within the constitution of the party that sits with IEC office was the process followed.
Okay, no, I understand. So in short, you are saying, technically speaking, he is, based on the original constitution, he wasn't fairly dismissed because he's contested that for a long time.
Yes.
So when I'm saying you are a member, are you still participating in MK duties as an ordinary member would?
So to answer a question there, how I've been participating, but one would say in a more strategic role.
Okay.
Because we are in a terrain where there's contestation of where does the leadership of the organization sit. And the process leading up to the Concord has been hectic. And it required quite a whole lot of mobilization in various aspects to get it to where it had to be. And these are some of the roles that have been played. But not only by myself. There have been very strategic people who've come in various stages to play various roles. And that's what has been done. And that's the role that's been played. I'm of the belief that different people, based on their strengths, play different roles in various aspects of life. Whilst others might be strong at mobilizing at a branch level, others might be strong at mobilizing logistics to gather thousands of people in one venue, for example. And so we all, whilst others might come up with constitutions that will ultimately be the glue that governs organizations. So different people play different roles, and that's the role that I've been playing for the past, call it 12 months, thereabout, quietly behind the scene to get us to where we are now.
How dangerous is what you are doing?
It is. It is.
How dangerous is it?
Being born and growing up Kosovo, one would say, to a point where it takes you to Avalon. That is actually called Avalon.
Yes.
It takes you there. But look at this. This is a conscious decision that didn't come overnight. It took time. Prior to December 16, 2023, where we had to take stock of the risk that we are embarking on. I mean, I'm a father. You consider all sorts of things. You have business interests, you have family, you have all sorts of things. You consider all of those, but to some of us, what stood out more than any other thing is a concept that we all grew up with. Yabot. How dare I sleep and throw food go dustbin, whereas 2 houses down from where I am, my neighbors don't have food. And I don't want to talk about where society is now in relation to where it was, 32 years ago. But these are decisions that keep you awake at night, that outweigh the risk. That says, but our forefathers took that risk. Whilst others chose to take a different path, others chose, for example, in the context of MK in the early 60s, to take that oath to say, I will defend this nation with the understanding there is possible torture by the apartheid government, and ultimately it could also mean assassination or imprisonment, for example. So if you can't come to terms with this risk, I think do what a lot of people have done and observe and comment from the sidelines.
What this means is the founding secretary general will have to come back. This is why I was asking you, how united are you?
Sure.
Yeah, so if you win in the Constitutional Court, please remind us of the date.
So we're looking at the 28th of August, 2025, as the most likely date. It's not rubber stamped as yet, but that's the date we're looking at.
Okay. So, 28 August, the Constitutional Court rules to say, go back and be treated well. Because I don't think Constitutional Court, this is just me thinking, I don't think Constitutional Court will say, you are a member, they fired you incorrectly. They're more likely to say, you were not treated well in the lower court, go back there and go and do. This is just me thinking, I'm not sure. Don't say I said so. I'm just thinking, this is probably what's going to be. And then, when they go there, and you win to reconstitute MK, and we spoke about how you are going to receive it before it was snatched away. So before it was snatched away, maybe the founding fathers would be McDonald's and Gorbachev will come back to the picture and. So I just want to understand on those matters. That's why I was asking, are you united? Jabulani Khumalo has been casted away. People were afraid to associate themselves with him. Which leaders are going to lead with him? Because he looks like he's a lone ranger. I mean, the facade of this thing looks like it's only him. People who support him, they support him at the background. When he wins this thing, who is he going to run with?
I think partly within questioning how you've answered yourself, or a lot of supporters are supporting from behind the scenes.
Yes. Who are these people? Why are they so afraid?
And I think they'll remain anonymous. The sad thing, a lot of people who've assumed political responsibility, most probably, for lack of a better word, misunderstand that deployment, because that's service. One could say borders being a minister of the gospel. It's service to the people. But what could lead to people probably taking the backseat? Some would term it politics of the stomach, because if I then show my face, God forbid, they might chop off my source of income, and ultimately it goes back to self-centeredness of, I then get to lose the lifestyle I've managed to acquire. So there are people that would emerge, people with the right capacity that could be able to add value in the different roles that they have to add value in. We will foster unity. This organization is for the people, and where we come back is always important because it informs where we're going. And December 16, amongst sparking hope to a hopeless nation, what we also did at December 16, or prior as well, was to approach all political parties which are black-led. Because the founding statement, in terms of the strategic discussions that took place prior to the announcement, said, our nation is beyond where it's about who's in power and who is contesting what. It's time we pause and address the political landscape of this nation. Talk about how we need to take our nation forward. But I think where we might have missed it as well is to further go back as to, but why are we divided? And I think division is beyond the past 30 years. And I think division is beyond the past 373, if history is anything to go by, years, since the white settlers docked in Cape Town. Division of was prior to that. History tells us, back KZN, they would fight. Liba Lesotho and Mushasha would throw stones down the mountain. So we've always just been at it. For me, that becomes important to understand. Why have we always just been in disputes? Was it land? Was it livestock? Was it trading? Answering these questions and coming up to ultimately where we are today should sort of guide us in a direction that says, how do we forge unity? And I'm coming back to issue how will we be united? We welcome comrades who have interest in Mzansi. To some of us, the oath that our brothers and sisters took, Hanaba Joina MK in the 60s, still bears reference today. Hori, I will defend Mzansi first. Yes, whilst I understand and subscribe to the policies of ANC and I'm an organization or a military wing formed by ANC, but objective yaka is to fight for the nation. So those who have an interest to fight for the nation, and will still appeal also to the black parties to sit around the table, because interest is not about who has how many seats. It's neither here or there. That's playing politics, alluring the enemy wants us to, because that gets us sitting in the various assemblies, occupying those seats and looking at our own policies. But also, Larry Sheva, in a different context, our policies are the same. I remember prior to the elections, I looked at the black leading parties. And, if you take the ANC, MKP, EFF, IFP, let me take those top four. I think they happen to be the top four as well in terms of the votes, ne? If you abstract from the manifesto, then are these four political parties which are black. Others might have a 6-point plan, others are 8 pillars, others 32 points, whatever the case might be. But central to what these people are talking about is the issue of land, issue of jobs, education, readdressing the economic imbalance. To me, what's stopping these top four political parties from sitting down? Because we are black. And our manifestos are more or less borrowed from each other.
There's a reason.
There's a reason.
The reason is you opened MK Party when MK could have just mobilized, MKVA by the way, could have just mobilized people, including Jacob Zuma, to join an existing vehicle called the EFF.
You're talking MKMVA, which was not a political party and is not a political party. So that's a bit far out, MKMVA. Pardon me, because that's an association that was put in place to look at the military vets and how we could manage them. So when you now want to politicize them,
they politicize themselves because they want to take credit for having formed MK Party.
Have they officially done that? Or individuals within that?
Individuals who have participated, some of which is Gorbachev, who says it was formed by MKVA people, who said the vehicle of ANC is lost, let's form another one.
I think that issue, which we can talk about at length, and we need time for that, goes back to the founding documents that were submitted. Because if people founded organizations, most likely their names would be there. No? So we'll talk about that. I think for me, what's important is these are things that, for me, the enemy wants us to talk at that level. And it's a level we can talk till the sun sets. And the weekend comes, we're still talking about it. And we achieve what? Nothingness. Yeah? And the same cycle continues. People still complain about the basic of services. Yeah? So that's why it becomes crucial to consult history to be able to address the issues that we face today. which could also be political issues. Why do we find ourselves defragmented as we are as the black vote in the political context? So the plan is we will invite them. We'll initiate those talks to say the four of us go beyond the threshold at 2/3 majority. And we all agree, per our manifesto, which is the contract that we've signed with the people on these particular items. Why can't we move forward? And probably start to account to the voters.
But they will tell you the same reason I just told you, Labs.
Yeah, we left the ANC. No, we left EFF. We mobilized against the...
So all of us as African people and political players like yourselves included, all these parties emanate from the African National Congress. They hated the way the African National Congress deviated from what they said was the attempt to pursue national democratic revolution.
Yes.
And in that cohort of people who have left in different pockets and different times, they agreed that we must form something united as African people, go back and fight MK. No, go back and fight for the heart and soul of the ANC. But once you guys left, you did not want unity. You wanted your own fiefdoms. Now that you've got a bigger political party, now you want to claim unity. Flo Chibambu is an example. So everyone will keep forming their own political parties and say, let us unite. But they keep forming a new political party claiming, let us unite. That is the problem.
And therein lies the problem. Ekering, unless we consult where we come from and where we are now, it will remain to be a problem. And then we continue just playing politics. And that's not the objective. And this is part of Concord to say, what we sought to achieve with this organization seems to have derailed from where we wanted to go. Right? And with the realignment of the leadership of the organization, that's what we hope to achieve. That's what we seek to achieve. And that's why, Kere, we will attempt to have the dialogue. Differences aside, everyone can see our nation is in decline. And lest we put our differences aside, we continue playing politics. And that's not something I'm not interested in, particularly. So if you can't achieve that, then hope in this nation is fast diminishing.
Okay. You do not blame yourselves for fragmenting the black vote further by opening MK party.
It depends which angle you're looking at it, but now
I'm looking at the angle that says with MK party having flourished, we're starting to hear people saying, Ingrimnyama, guys, stop your things, come under one umbrella, let's do this. And you also are talking about black parties coming to unite and use that 66% majority to do something meaningful in parliament. So I just want to check, you absolved yourself from any blame regarding this thing? As a founding father, of course.
So it's in the public domain. And I think Comrade Floyd, to some extent, also made public utterances to it as well. That attempt was made before the elections to say, comrades, irrespective of your size, let's talk the issue of unity.
Yes.
Building up towards the elections. So I want to address the issue, now that there's this percentage, now there's the talk. No, the talk came before. It might have fallen on ears of some people post the elections, but that talk happened prior.
You go to court, you win this thing, you assemble a team, those you say that at the background, then what changes? There are 8 pillars coming from Floyd, from MK. What do you resort to? During what people called the People Manifesto that was in Orlando, I also made a podcast about it. One of the most confusing things just before the elections, MK of that era spoke about, for example, working with taxi drivers, making sure that the taxi industry is very confusing. So I just want to check, when you take it, which MK is it going to be? The MK of alignment with Morocco, the MK of the people shall really govern? Like, which MK are you going to? Because people, before people support you, they must know what you support as well. We don't know much about Jabulani Khumalo, but we know he's going to lead. One of the things that I know about Jabulani Khumalo, when I was sitting across him, there's no angel, but Jabulani Khumalo is one of the honest people that we have in our politics, to an extent that I don't even think he's a politician, because he's going to be troubled by politics a lot, because he does not have the heart and grit of a politician. Those people are conniving, those people lie, and they're just
Listening to you, they're listening.
Yes, of course they are. And I told Jabulani Khumalo this, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes, he's too honest a man to work in this political space, and I think this is his undoing. And this is why you hear me asking, with who is he going to lead this thing with? With who? Because some of his ideologies are next to impossible. Like, for example, to dismantle the whole thing and then have kings being the ones who are consulted for leadership, and then the presidents must hear from the kings. It's not going to happen. I feel it's not going to happen. But he believes if he gets 2/3 majority, he can pursue that. And I don't see any politician that would want to answer to who would support him. He's going to be sabotaged. He's going to be dealt with. It's like, this is just me feeling that he is not a politician. He's a man, activist, who feels he needs to do certain things in a certain way. What kind of MK will you have if you win it? What kind would you drive?
Question is, though, has Jabulani said that he will lead in relation to presidents of the organization? Because I was asking this, Subani, earlier on you mentioned Ishuya conference, which could lead to a change or dilution of leadership. What if that doesn't even happen? And post the Concord, there's a gathering that says, how do we put our best foot forward, and who's our best foot? And realign the leadership. I'm just saying there are a lot of unknowns.
But the real element of leadership will only happen at conference.
At conference, yes. You could call any early conference, yes, right? You could call early conference. But therein lies my issue, though, question now. Erin, if you say politics is made up of greed and people who are conniving, why do we, though, then still fall for the trap of voting and hoping that these people will bring about change?
Asking me or asking the audience?
Everyone who's listening. Because my point is, I'm not a politician as well, and I have no ambition of being a politician. But if, as a nation, we realize, Hore, we've come this far, and in the forefront, we've deployed politicians to move the nation from point A to point B, but we've fallen short in this context, are we not fools to still continue expecting those politicians to make a difference? So you know, the the concern of having non-politicians in the forefront, whether from the business circles or from academia or from the traditional context, whatever the case might be, in all spheres of society. For me, I believe it's an idea that we should be open. We are in this mess. You are mentioning how politics plays a crucial role. Then let's stop being fools in hoping for a different outcome from the same players.
All right. There are people who say, because now I want us to close.
Sure.
There are people who say Jacob Zuma did not force Jabulani Khumalo. Jabulani Khumalo willingly told IEC that this is your party. Jacob Zuma is the leader of the party. And by that, he unfortunately has given away the political party that he said was his. Which part of the fraud will he be contesting? I'm not saying give us evidence. So it's just for our audience to understand where you guys are. Which part will he be contesting that this was not made correctly? This, yes, I admit, this we gave, but we did not give. I just want you to say it to our audience so they could understand.
So the contestation court, which will be proven, is if that what you've just mentioned actually happened. Did he write a document and communicate with the IEC to relinquish
his leadership?
That question will be answered in court. And of course, the court will want evidence. And so we'll let all of those court proceedings take place.
He says, I told IEC that please put him as the face of the organization, but I remain the party leader as the president. But please put Jacob Zuma's face. And IEC said, if you put his face, he then becomes the leader of the political party, that is MK. And with my understanding, he seemed to be saying, what law did IEC advise him on? Which law says the person who is there is automatically the leader or is assumed to be the leader? Is the assumption actually a law? Is that the terrain of which you are going to put contest on?
Yeah, so the IEC is the first respondent. And a lot will be unpacked in relation to the Electoral Act, the procedures to which the IEC governs. One, the build-up towards the elections. Two, who's a party leader, the face, images, and also procedures the IEC will now be put out to the open and tested, because it will also talk to how MKP communicated with the IEC in relation to the purported changes in leadership that took place. So without getting into much detail, yes, that will be at length discussed. And various parties will, of course, provide documentation to substantiate what they say they believe in. So we'll do the same. We are prepared
in teaching each other law. On the 28th, if it sits, yes, if it sits on the 28th,
sure.
Will there be deliberations? Would be people canvassing their own position like a typical court, or it will be the day of the judgment? Or the lawyers, the panel of judges will be hearing the lawyers trying to convince them. They'll be hearing the case. Which one is it? Is it a judgment? Is it? We want you to, so our viewers can understand.
Yeah. So with the hoped date of the 28th will be the first sitting, where the various parties will then be presenting their cases to the court. So that's what will be happening. And then based on the information provided, there might be a second or third, whatever aspect. And the ruling might not even come on the same day. But the 28th will be the first appearance if we get the date, the 28th, which we'll most likely get.
I want you to call names. With who are you with? Let's say Lebogang, the one that you can make mention of?
Mabitso a batho are expensive.
Sharp. Mary Padi has her own party as we speak. Jabulani Khumalo does make mention that he worked with her in Mpumalanga. She was one of the founding members of MK, and she was very instrumental in building up MK in Mpumalanga. And as we know, Mpumalanga is the second home of MK after KwaZulu-Natal. Are you going, or is there any possibilities of working with her?
It would be rather suspicious for us to try and work with other political parties without trying to work with fellow comrades that we struggled with in this organization.
Okay.
So we are talking to comrades and will continue to talk to comrades. Post announcement, there will be a lot of surprises that will change the nature of politics in this nation. And there'll be a lot of political surprises and moves that some might not be anticipated. But I think that's a show that will play out post the outcome, the Concord ruling.
Okay. Vehicles in wrong places picked up. What did you mean by this statement? So they were tracked in wrong places that they're not supposed to be, or they were picked up in places that people thought they would not be seen to be here. Are you in the realm of those intelligence reports of Jacob Zuma?
I don't know. I'd like to see those. No,
What did you mean by this?
Interrogate those and find out. No, I was making reference to the underground work that happened prior to the announcement of the organization, right? And there were numerous occasions, I mean, we can talk about it now, that one visited the home of the former head of state, President Jacob Zuma. And you know, one would assume that such things would come from them. But they've been attempts, you know, when after there'll be strategic sessions that will be held, you know, before the announcement. So that's what I'm making reference to.
I did not hear anything.
What are you saying?
You said vehicles in wrong places being picked up. What does it mean? No, so were people put under surveillance to be checked by a guy? What are the runnings? Because the reason I'm asking is Jabulani Khumalo spoke about how people were intimidated by saying Ubaba knows wherever you guys are. He's got eyes and ears everywhere, and people were very timid and they would not want to cross Ubaba. So I just wanted to check if you are alluding to the fact that people were were looking over.
No, not that.
Okay.
Not that. No. Ukhuphule, my statement was more on answering, is there risk to what we're doing? Mm-hmm. And I'm saying yes, there is risk.
Okay.
But I was alluding to the risk that we came to terms that we have to assume and accept risk prior to the announcement of the organization. And I made that example, Yahore, as you would attend meetings, a vehicle that one would drive that would be registered in your name would be spotted. And, you know, when they pick that up, so that's what I meant, Hore, you are seen in place X, Y, and Z, and people start to possibly put two and two together. I'm not talking about the post-announcement and intelligence reports. No, that's a story for another day.
Anything in closing? What is it that you think your audience or the members of MK Party should know prior heading to the constitutional contest?
I think crucial here is interest of Mzansi should be at heart and at the center of what we do. And once we lose sight and focus of that, I think it's as good as probably us just leaving this organization, collapsing it. Because then we continue to play along the political circus that we just mentioned. No? And that is why also, if you recall, in the early stages of this organization, President Jacob Zuma was surrounded by non-politicians.
What does it mean?
I'm a little known.
Okay.
I'm not even a politician. I have no interest of being a politician. My interest is in fixing our nation. And if those that we've deployed to fix are not doing what they're supposed to, are we to sit and cry? You know, probably not everybody is privileged to, you know, get on a flight and go start life in a different, greener pasture. But that, I think, would be responsibility, because this is our home. We nurture the grass where we are till it becomes fertile. I'll make an example. John Adams, the former head of state in America, who pens a letter to his wife in America, and he's sitting in exile. I think history says he's sitting in exile in Paris. Nice exile, I think. And he's responding to his wife, who's probably complaining, Sando-sam, come back home, and you're not even a politician. But John pens in response to say, yes, I'm not a politician, but the situation in our country is going to a point where I now need to study war and politics so that I can be better equipped to fight for our nation, so that our children can then study geography, engineering, architecture to be able to then rebuild, because war is destructive. So that their children, which would be our grandchildren, would also have the opportunity to then further go study fine arts, music and culture, because then you've got all the infrastructure you need for society to thrive. You can then now put further investment in these other sort of sectors. I think that's where we are. And what we sought to achieve, MK, was to avoid bloodshed and say, how could we, within the confines of the Constitution, bring about change that we need, socio-economic change that corrects the past imbalances and actually delivers services that have to be delivered. You know, when you talk to people, I'm part of a group that fights for the rights, the community Hamans ground, access to water and all sorts of things. And when you hear some of the issues that people cry about, for example, some people just want a basic life. Whilst others might dream of a holiday in a different geographic jurisdiction, others just want a basic life. And I think us failing to deliver as a nation those basics is worrisome. And that's why I'm saying, if at all this MK then continues to play those politics, I would be the first to leave, openly.
Do you resign after the Constitutional Court says your case ends here? Do you resign?
One is hoping that, look, in war, you execute your plans in the dark and only show your head when you know that victory is certain.
In short, you are saying you can't answer this now?
Victory is certain. Lebogang Court.
Mashiane, politically incorrect. You heard him. You heard the narrative from Jabulani Khumalo. These are the people, because you kept asking, Khanebaka what about Jabulani Khumalo?
But about MK.
No, they deliberately say, but about Jabulani Khumalo. Because they feel these are the people who support Jabulani Khumalo. I did indicate that this issue has ended up becoming Jabulani Khumalo versus the Zuma family. And the Zuma family part, of course, it's alleged by Jabulani Khumalo, who says it's his family that has taken away MK from the people that he was leading. So it has always looked, and this is why I make reference of people of Jabulani Khumalo. But
no, I get you.
For what it is, Mashiane Politicallyincorrect, tell us in the question, in the comment box, what do you feel about this? To me, amen. It's been a long road. But what the prospect of success? Very slim. Very slim, not because they don't have a case. Very slim because judges are human. Far-reaching implications if this thing is swayed in the favor of Jabulani Khumalo, of which I've stated many times. I think he's legitimate. I think he tells the truth. Of course, the whole truth will be tested in court. I think he's genuine in his approach, but he was beaten politically because he's not a political player. And this is just me. And judges sitting there trying to come up with what is it that they think should happen. They are human and they may fear taking certain decisions. Let me leave it at that. Lives at Canada. Hola.